Looking down on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What a beautiful day for racing here in Indiana. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Brian Till along with Ryan Marine. We'll have all the action for you. This is the 9th event of the 2025 season. 2 events every weekend. And looking there at the Pagoda, what a place to be. You want to win here, Ryan, no matter what you're in. You want to kiss the yard of bricks. The road course, we go the opposite direction than we do when we're here for the 500. But a very interesting racetrack indeed. Take us around.
Oh, it's a fantastic place, certainly. Opened in 1909, the first Indy 500 in 1911. Always envisioned with an infield road course, but this road course debuted at the turn of the millennium. Look at it this year, just under 2.5 miles around, 14 turns in all. The Holman Boulevard straightaway down into turn 7. Good passing opportunity there. Very technical section after that, leading back up onto the banking. That is the 1-2 section of the oval, then back to the infield, and that long duration turn 14 back to the front straightaway, which leads to the trouble spot potentially down in turn 1. Keep an eye out on lap 1 when the green flag comes out, because that tends to see a lot of action down there on the opening lap of these races.
I think it's such an interesting racetrack, Ryan, because of turns like turn 1, turn 7, where you do get those bottlenecks, and then you have these high-speed straightaways into these very low-speed corners like 1 and 7. Heavy braking, hard on these hand-cooked tires as well. Just the braking loads will really wear those tires out, so you really need to think about what kind of tire are you going to leave your teammate when you make that mandatory pit stop. And speaking of pit stops, 2-driver format and 1-driver format between the 4 different classes in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. If you are competing with a 1-driver format, it's going to be 115 seconds on pit road, 112 for the 2-driver format. And you and I have talked about this all season long. For the 2-driver format, that new driver getting in doesn't know the car or the track yet. The 1-driver format, you've got an advantage. So the officials take some of that advantage away of leaving you sitting on pit lane for that extra 3 seconds.
Exactly, it makes a big difference, but it does help to even out the 2 different approaches, taking the single driver versus the 2-driver. Most of the field, though, in the 2-driver situation, so you'll see the pit lane busy right around the middle part of the race with the driver changes going back and forth, and then the teams as well will check air pressure, bleed a little air pressure, but that's it. It's not a full-service pit stop, no refueling, no tire changes, but still makes for an action-packed 50 minutes of racing.
See the 4 different classes represented there along with the grid on the left side of the screen. Pro, Pro-Am, Am, and LB Cup. LB Cup being the least experience of the drivers that are out there. Pro, obviously, 2 professional drivers in the car, and that's the only thing that separates all of these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2s on the racetrack, and that is just the experience level of the driver behind the wheel.
Exactly, so the platform potential is the same across the board in the class. It comes down to the guys and gals behind the wheel of these cars, and what amazing race cars they are. Super impressive machines capable of massive speeds, and this is a great place to let the Lamborghini stretch their legs.
All right, let's talk about the championship, a 12-race championship, and we are in round number 9, so things winding down. We've got some great championship hunts and some stories there on the front row. Danny Formal aboard the number 1. They are hunting down Bamber and De La Torre for the Pro Championship. They sit second right now. They have their teammate, Trent Hinman, outside in a Pro-Am entry, and it's going to be interesting. Trent Hinman, Jackson Lee, sharing that number 69 car for only the second weekend. Not only are they looking for a win, but I got to believe they're looking to help their teammates to that championship in the Pro category.
That's a really good point. They have a chance to do exactly that, sharing the front row with the team car and knowing that Bamber and De La Torre start 1 row behind. So getting a good start for the number 69 car could be super beneficial to help give a bit of a buffer to Formal and company and Ericsson as they try and chase down De La Torre and Bamber. Just a 4-point difference coming in to this race here, Brian. So really, really close championship battle with just 4 races to go in the season.
Well, you can almost cue the Jaws music because you look at that championship for Formal and Ericsson. They went into the last round at Road America that weekend being 12 points down. Now, as you said, only 4 points down coming into the weekend, but after qualifying, the number 1 car took the pole position for both races, and that's going to be 2 more points. So it is closing down. It is going to be intense. And for Will Bamber and Elias De La Torre, they need to try to kind of crack the magic that Wayne Taylor Racing has here at Indianapolis this weekend, because the 69 of Hinman and Lee were there on pole for both of the races this weekend as well.
Yeah, they've been super strong, as you would expect. Trent needs no introduction. Jackson Lee racing on home turf. He grew up only about 10 miles or so away from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, so you know this is a really special opportunity for him starting, or his car at least, starting on the outside of the front row overall, and he had a great qualifying effort for his race tomorrow as well.
And as you would expect for young Jackson Lee, quite a few guests here this weekend with longtime partners involved. Indiana University Simon Cancer Center on board that car as well as Browning Chapman. So a lot of hometown fans rooting, and right now you got to believe that for Danny Framal on the pole, he's going, Trent, can you help me out? Can you slide in front of that black and bright green number 29 that Will Bamber is piloting when we get down to turn 1? Maybe give me a lap of breathing room or 2.
Yeah, we'll see if he's able to make that work. But Trent might be thinking about taking the lead himself as well. He's a feisty race car driver as they get ready to go green.
So much talent in this Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Series. Look at the cars, 32 line up to take the start here. Looking for the green, it is out. Racing at Indianapolis, and already cars moving in the back, and you can't do that until you get to the line. So start will be reviewed for sure, but no review needed here as Danny Framal gets a tremendous start, leads to turn 1.
And crucially, Bamber did not. He got swallowed up. He's almost at the very back of the pack, so that is massive for the championship. Spin mid-pack, and it really funnels down. Amazing. Everyone comes out on the other side. We've got another spin and a little bit of contact. By and large, though, the field able to continue on.
And another spinning car. So you get those Hankook tires out on that grass, it's not going to work for you, but Framal got the start. What happened to Bamber at the drop of the green?
I don't know. It looked like that car just didn't go. Right now, Trent Hitman having to play a little bit of defense. He's got Nick Persing nipping at his heels. It does look like Bamber's up to speed now. He's on the counterattack coming up through the field once again. Made a couple of passes just a moment ago down at the end of Holman Boulevard. So whatever the issue was, that car is back up to song, but a really strange start and a costly one potentially with all the championship implications that are in play.
You see some damage, I believe. That dark blue car right there going out of the shot, the 67 of Jason Hart. They are in a battle for the championship as well, and look at the right front damage to that Lamborghini.
Man, that is so unfortunate. This group, they finally broke through and got a win. The last race at Road America, race number 2, and that was their fourth podium of the season, but they've had a lot of misfortune. Haven't been able to capitalize on some of the good speed that they've shown from time to time. Watch from the second row, immediately Bamber moves over to the inside to the pit wall. He could tell there was an issue with that car and just tried to get out of the way, but that's where the contact was made with the Jason Hart car, and it tore off some of the front fascia of that Lamborghini.
Yeah, it looked to me like the car directly behind him, which would have been Jason Hart. It looks like perhaps a little push and shove there as Bamber couldn't get his Lamborghini up to speed, perhaps stuck in a gear or something like that, Ryan.
Yeah, it looked like that could very well be the case. And then behind them, yeah, even more chaos erupting. It does look like everyone's been able to continue on, thankfully, so we stay green, but keep an eye on the black and yellow car, kind of center of the screen here. That's Will Bamber trying to recover. Oh, meanwhile, puncture, it would appear, for a car further back.
Yeah, I believe that's the 65, and it's the left rear. Part of that schmozzle that happened down in turn 1 and 2, Shahi aboard the number 65, let's see. Yeah, that was that contact in turn 1, and he's got to go all the way around this racetrack. And that is a long way to go with that left rear Hankook not having any air in it anymore. Not the day that he wanted, but we talked about the challenges here at Indy. Long straightaways, heavy braking zones, and at starts and restarts, it can be absolutely treacherous.
Wow, really frustrating for him there, and now to have to limp all the way around about 2.5 miles just to get back to the pit lane, and it's a long pit lane and an arduous one too. You lose so much time, so it's almost a guarantee he'll lose a lap, and that is so costly in these short sprint races.
Smoke out of the rear of the 44, and I can't tell if that's tire smoke for Henry off of perhaps some body work. I think it is, where you look where it's coming from, and that can be a serious problem as well around this racetrack, Ryan, because you get that body work on those tires with the high speeds that we have here, and no tire can stand up to that, rubbing at 160 plus miles an hour down these long straightaways. So I'm thinking they're going to need to take a look at that maybe sooner rather than later. Some of that carbon fiber or perhaps fiberglass bodywork on the racetrack, they're going to need to remove that right in the line, and that's a pretty substantial size piece of bodywork laying there in the racetrack.
Right, so consequently we do go full course yellow. Shaheed maybe with another spin as he's trying to limp that car all the way back to the pit lane. So frustrating for Ray. I think he is in the pit entry now. This yellow maybe came a bit too late for him. I think he's still likely to drop a lap at this stage, but this could be a break for the 44 if they're able to limp around, stay at the tail of the field, and at least maybe get that tire change done without dropping a lap. And then when we go back green, they have a chance to recover.
Got to be frustrating for Ray Shaheed. Came into the weekend in the 4th position and has run well here all weekend long. 5th in the first practice session, 2nd in the second practice session, qualified 1st in LB Cup today, 5th for tomorrow's race. But that car has been top 5 all weekend long, and to have this problem in the early going, it just really takes the wind out of your sails. You can get it back around, and if there's been no damage caused by the car or by the car rubbing on the racetrack, running low with that low ride height because of that deflated left rear tire, they can get him back out here. But yeah, that's going to send him well back in the order.
Yeah, that's probably too much to overcome from today, so that turns this into effectively a test session. Make sure the car is fixed, send it back out to get a little extra seat time and try and do it again tomorrow. On the flip side, this yellow is perfect news for Will Bamber, because now he's caught back up to the rest of the pack. This will help him in that recovery drive. He's dropped all the way down from 3rd on the starting grid, Brian, to 11th overall, and close to the tail end of the pro class, just a couple of pro class runners behind him. Now the challenge he's got ahead of him is he needs to get through 3 out-of-class cars in order to get to the next car in class, and that will be his focus as he tries to salvage something here and hope that on the restart, whatever befell him on the initial start doesn't crop up again.
Tell you who's had a great start is Colin Queen aboard the number 4, all the way up in the 4th position. That car rolled to the start in 11th, so I think part of Jason Hart's problem was a benefit to some of the other competitors out there as well. And if I'm Danny Vermael, I like the wingman that I have behind me. He is my teammate, and that is going to keep Scott Huffaker back just a little bit on the start. When you go rocketing down into turn 1 at the start, we see it all the time here, Ryan. Cars 3, 4, 5 abreast, and the fact of the matter is you can only get 2 through there. So I know with Vermael and Ericsson on the hunt in that championship, only 2 points down like we talked about at the beginning, they don't want any pressure on these starts and restarts. They're not afraid of racing. That's not it. It's just this racetrack, the way it's designed, you've got to get through the first corner on the start and the restart if you want to make it to the finish.
Talked about it as a potential trouble spot in the track preview, didn't we? It's such a wide run, relatively speaking, into turn 1 of the road course. You can go 4, maybe 5 wide at entry, but crucially, by the time you get to the apex, that doesn't work anymore. And a move that looks tempting and maybe even promising at the beginning, by the middle of the quarter, can go totally the wrong way. And so everyone will have to have that in mind coming back to the restart. A couple of these cars here in the pit lane. This is what the 44 was hoping for. At least they get the yellow to come in and get that punctured tire off, put a fresh Hankook on, and send them back out without losing the lap, and then hopefully be able to try and fight something back here in the remaining time in the race.
Yeah, and you were talking about Bamber, and you think about it, it's like you said, this is good for him because it brings the field kind of back together. and allows him to kind of have a go at it again. And that's, I think, really the mark of someone like Will who is experienced enough to go, all right, that was not good. What are we going to do with it? And here's what you can do with it. You can just lose your cool, go throw it into one of these corners in the middle of traffic and end your day, or you can stay cool, calm, and collected and say, you know what? Historically speaking, we get full course cautions at this racetrack. As long as I'm not a part of one of those, I may be okay. And that gentleman putts like me. That was not, he said that was a gimme, and he missed it.
Yeah, he wasn't happy, probably in the way that that Will Bamber wasn't happy. How about that same level of frustration,
Yeah.
I think, with the way this race started. I'm going to keep an eye on that car coming to the restart here, though, and see if this is something that rears its ugly head again, or if it was just a little one-off issue. But I have to imagine it's got him a bit nervous coming to the resumption of this race.
Well, it's so disappointing for Jason Hart as well. He's right behind him and becomes a part of that problem, and he's got a championship hunt of his own that he's involved in. Time to get involved in racing once again as we enter the restart zone. Danny Vermael waiting to jump on the throttle and look for those 600 plus horsepower. He has it. Good run off the final corner, but I tell you what, Huffaker got a good run as well, and I think Hinman's gonna need to defend a little bit, even though it's not an in-class battle. He wants to help his teammate out from all in front, trying to keep that 22 from closing ground.
Yeah, that's what he'll try and do, and he did hang on to that spot. Looks like the 44 did ultimately lose a lap. He's coming out of the pit lane now, and it gets really narrow there as they try and merge into traffic fresh out of the pits, so that's a tough deal. Here's Jason Hart going side by side, trying to pick up a position again. Bamber did get a good restart. He's jumped a couple of spots already, so he's going like a bat out of hell here after the misfortune on the initial start.
Hart and Darius Trinko were side by side. Hart gets the better of that as we have the big run down to turn 7. Heavy braking down here. 3 abreast is nothing unusual, that's for sure, especially in a one-make series like Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Got to keep it clean, though. We go back to Road America and then Virginia International Raceway with the IMSA race control, where they've said enough across all of the series that run under the IMSA umbrella. They've pulled out the microscope and they're going to take a real close look at the driving here. You've got to keep it clean. You can race hard, but you've got to keep it clean. And if you don't, you're going to fall afoul of the stewards and you're going to have a drive-through penalty. And you do not want to have a drive-through here at Indy, and a problem now for the 46.
Sebastian Carranzo, Precision Performance Motorsports, the team, and he is not just spun around, but stopped on the track. So race control will be looking at this, hoping he has a chance to get that car refired, and he does. So that hopefully will let us stay green, but that car might be damaged. It looks like he's finding a safe place to try and pull that car off to the side. I think the right rear might be the corner in question.
Yeah, it's coming out of turn 12. He went straight into the motorcycle chicane, and I don't know if he had help getting there. Let's take a look and see if we can ascertain. Oh yeah. Contact, and one of the other cars has significant damage to the left front. Did not get the number on it, but there's Carrazzo's problem involved with someone else, and so it is going to be that damage. Not at all uncommon to see that fire out of the exhaust while you're trying to restart it, and I think you're right. You can actually see the right rear suspension moving as he applies throttle. Something tells me that, yeah, I think the pickup points either off of the transmission or there on the upright are the problem, and his day is done.
I think the other car involved might have been the 10. That's Graham Doyle, championship leader, coming in along with Glenn McGee in the AM class, who did not get a good start to this race, lost a ton of track position, and then was caught up in that issue. It is now shown as in the pits, so this could be massive for them. They came in with a 17-point lead, which is pretty big with the point structure in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but that could take a pretty massive hit here if things break the way that they're going right now. And there is that car, so indeed, it is the 10 that was the second car involved.
Yeah, and that is significant damage, as you said, Ryan, significant damage. I'm thinking it's going to be a really tough road to hoe to get that 10 back on track, and it looks like the crew electing to push that car down to the cut and out of the pit lane. it's big. We said we're closing down on season's end, but you can't throw it away and you can't take anything for granted. Denny Vermael not doing that right now as he continuing to press forward. And they have had, dare I say this, and I hope it's not the commentator's curse, because they've had the perfect weekend so far. Ryan has had the Wayne Taylor #1 team. First in the first practice session, second in practice 2, and then pole positions in each of the qualifying sessions, and now Vermael out in front. This is what they needed to close down on Bamber and De La Torre. They are doing exactly what they needed to do, and I think when we left Road America, what you could tell was that team was focused. They were perfect there, and they wanted to keep the streak going here at Indy.
As they run, they would be the new championship leaders in the pro class. And talk about a perfect weekend. Well, that's what they had at Road America. Pole for both races, overall wins in both races, fastest lap of the race in both races. That's one way to break out of a slump. They had a big swoon in the middle of the season. Laguna Seca, Watkins Glen, those 4 races, just 1 podium finish. Only 1 finish better than 6th, in fact, after sweeping the first 2 races of the season. And it kind of felt like the season was getting away from them a little bit, but they were able to answer back in a big way at Road America with those 2 wins, and that momentum has carried over here into the Brickyard.
Yeah, and momentum is one of those intangibles, isn't it? Things go well for you, and that momentum really can go both ways, but when things go well for you, it just builds a sense of confidence, and the worry seems to fall away, and you focus a little bit harder, a little bit clearer on the task at hand, and I think that's exactly what Vermael and Ericsson have been able to do. And talk about pushing and shoving, some pushing and shoving here in the back, and that's going to be a problem, not only for those 2 cars, but I'm sure race control is going to take a good hard look at that as well. The number 2 involved there, and that was a big hit, side to side.
Yeah, Lindsey Brewer was trying to make up a spot. I think it could have been Dean Newell's that she was battling with, or was it? Well, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, Sam Shee, okay. That was a big lunge to the inside, and it started a little bit earlier, didn't it? There had been contact 1 corner before, and then once again at the apex there. And Lindsey got the worst end of that one.
Yeah, and that's another one of those deals where you've got to really think about what's going on, because for Lindsey Brewer, I mean, they have been having a great run here as of late. Podiums in 4 of the last 5 races and tied for 2nd in the AM Driver Championship. You cannot let desperation get the better of you, and that seemed like a little desperate move there, trying to get that pass done in an area where you knew things were going to close down in a hurry. And it would not be surprising to me to see race control, we were just talking about that, right? To see race control take a look at that and say, all right, is someone going to be held at fault for this? Will there be a penalty? You cannot afford those at this racetrack.
Right, and doubly painful because it was a pass on a car that wasn't even, actually was in the same class. I take that back. So that was for a potential podium spot, which would keep that streak of podiums alive. But now, this is a long way back for Lindsey to try and crawl, along with Jim Hepworth, who she shares this car with. Got that win finally at Road America the last time out after finishing 2nd in 3 consecutive races. That was a long time coming, but to back that up with another win today looks pretty difficult at this stage.
Well, and as I said, race control not messing around, just found out a 10 grid spot penalty for incident responsibility for the number 10 car that we were just talking about for tomorrow's race number 2. That's Doyle, and that's going to set them back. You talked about it, Glenn McGee, Graham Doyle, they lead the championship, and they'll get last place points today, and then they're going to have to start at the back for tomorrow's race. So championship is not done and dusted. You've got to see it all the way through.
Yeah, and they've had a near perfect season. They've only been off the podium twice all year. In fact, they've only failed to win in class 3 times this season. This will be the 4th. So it's out of character, to say the least. It all started on the first lap. I think they also were caught out by some of the spinning cars. Maybe were one of the spinning cars, quite frankly. I'm not entirely sure, but they dropped all the way to the back on that first lap. and then find themselves trying to recover, and evidently we saw the tail end and there was some contact, but race control saw a bit more than we did and judged that that car was at fault, and that now carries over to tomorrow too.
Yeah, and I just saw a penalty come across the timing board for the 2. Didn't quite get it read before it disappeared, but it appears, I'd like to see it again, and I know somebody can get it for me. It appears that Lindsey Brewer may have experienced the wrath of race control as well.
Yeah, I just dug it up, and you're exactly right. It is a 10-second post-race penalty coming for that car. So I think the difference here is that that car has continued on, whereas the other car did not. So they can take that penalty effectively in this race, whereas the 10 car we were talking about earlier has the penalty applied to tomorrow.
David Staub is going to get word of that penalty for Hepworth and Brewer, and that'll make him feel a little bit more comfortable, because once again, they were tied coming in here for second in the AM Championship. And you got to think about this. Think about what's happening in the AM Championship. We were just talking about it. McGee and Doyle with their problems, Hepworth and Brewer with theirs. David Staub sitting there going, I could leave Indianapolis maybe even tied for this championship lead, or could I be leading it? There's a personal bump. Okay, no harm, no foul. Stay off of it, but then try to throw it in the next corner, and that's just not, race control right now is not going to stand for that. I don't think they would at any time.
No, that was pretty cut and dry, but now they'll try and recover, see what they can dig back. You're exactly right, though, for Staub. This is picture perfect. His 2 championship rivals falling by the wayside, and certainly he'll have sole possession of second place leaving this race as they run. I mean, I suppose if something were to happen to him, then that gets changed up. The calculus does a little bit, but he's quietly had a pretty good season. Several poles, couple of race wins, been on the podium a whole bunch, and outside of a down weekend at Watkins Glen, it's been a really strong season for David Staub, and very much entering that championship conversation as things run here today.
Let's talk championships for just a moment. Will Bamber trying to overcome whatever malady that was at the start. I've got to believe it was either mechanical or electrical, or perhaps both. Maybe the electronics not firing the transmission the way that it should, what have you. Either way, he did not have a good start. You see the 2 on pit road, and I would think this is for the pit stop, because there is no drive-through penalty and the pit window is open. So perhaps the team just saying, oh, you know what, go ahead, take a breath, get out. We'll go ahead and do our driver change right now. We'll talk about it, and we'll come back to battle tomorrow. But Bamber on a charge, trying to move forward, but the farther he goes, Ryan, the more difficult it's going to be to pick up positions from those drivers in front of him. For Danny Formal right now, he's having a heyday out in front, and you got to think about Trent Hinman. The quality of the driver that he is running in second right now, he's just having fun, right?
Well, he's having even more fun, because he just cycled through to the lead.
Exactly.
We've got our race leaders starting to pit here at the early part of the window, which does come with some risk. These are relatively long pit stops, and it is a short lap, just a minute 25 for some of the front runners. So if you come in and you do that pit stop, chances are you're dropping a lap, and safety car intervention could prove costly if it comes in the middle of this window.
Yeah, and you got to believe, too, that the mindset for the 2 different Wayne Taylor Racing cars that were up front are a little bit different. I can understand wanting to get Ericsson in so he can experience Indianapolis and so on and so forth, but you're exactly right about potentially losing a lap. And I look at the 69, I go completely the opposite deal. 1, you're not going to get caught out like you were just talking about. And 2, Trent Hinman is a rocket. Jackson Lee is obviously very quick in this car. He qualified on pole as well. But Hinman just, I'm sure, has a big smile on his face right now. No pressure, right? And he's driving a Lamborghini at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, sharing it with a kid that he's bringing along and help coaching, and they're running out in front, and they're going to let him run really quick lap times on an empty racetrack and see if they can just continue to extend this lead before they hand it over to Jackson Lee. So a completely different mindset.
Absolutely. They're not thinking championship at all. Trent got parachuted into this car at Road America. Former champion in this series, tons of experience, but he'd been away about a half a decade or so as far as Super Trofeo goes before he got plopped back at Road America. And for Jackson Lee, this is remarkable. This is the first time he's been in the same car with the same teammate in back-to-back races this year. I mean, that is unbelievable. He's been bouncing back and forth with different co-drivers, different opportunities as they pop up. But this came together for Road America, and they won a race right out of the gate. And now a great opportunity here on home soil for Jackson to try and chase victory at IMS.
Well, Jackson does a lot of coaching and a lot of teaching as well as driving, and I think now he's the student again, right? He's been the coach with his other co-drivers this year, and now he's the student again, and you couldn't have a better professor than Trent Hinman. So he's got that mindset of a teacher, and he knows how to deliver information. He also knows how to read his students. So you take those two attributes and you put them together and turn yourself into the student with someone like Trent Hinman showing you the way, and you're just going to get better and better. And I think that's what we've seen in that pairing in a very short period of time.
Yeah, no question. And talking to Jackson a little bit here this weekend, he alluded to the fact it's great to have a great reference point like Trent Hinman to kind of gauge yourself against. And then when the time comes where he's in that coach role, once again, he's got that little bit more data that he can apply to the situation. And look, clearly, it's not like he's looking for a huge amount of help. It's just little things here and there when you're paired up with a more experienced driver like Trent, who's won this title 2 times in 2016 and 2017 in a couple different classes. He's won the World Final before. So he knows his way around one of these race cars. And then, you know, you pair that experience up with the speed that Jackson has, and all in all, it's a formidable pairing as we've seen now for a couple of weekends.
Well, it is the little things that end up making the difference in the end, right? I mean, a tenth of a second here, a half a tenth there, and that's what you're looking for. That is what makes Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America so competitive amongst the 4 different classes. You look at the grid, and the margins between positions are minuscule, and great job there. Saw the 66 of Chris Tascam moving over, letting the leader come through. And for Chris, he's probably listening nervously every time the radio crackles.
Yeah.
Because his wife, Christina, is at home, and she is about to deliver their next child. The family at home watching today, and I know they're excited to see Dad out on the racetrack, but he's ready for a radio call at any time of, okay, you've had your fun for the weekend. You need to go home and see Christina.
Yeah, Chris was telling me about this, and I said, well, how imminent is it? And he said, well, I could be jetting out of here at any time. So if you don't see me in the car, you'll know what happened. But big smile on his face. He's having so much fun this season and really relishing the chance to get to race here at Indy. But he would also relish the chance to get to head home and welcome a new member to the family, too, if that's what fortune threw his way.
Yeah, you would think so. Olivia, Bo, and obviously Christina, as we said, sitting at home right now watching Dad, and hopefully, hold on, Mom, just one more day, one more race after today, right? And then Chris will be there. So pit stop's going on right now. There's the 69 on pit road doing their driver change, and we'll let things settle down after this mandatory pit stop, get a really good idea of where things stand. I'll tell you what I'm impressed with is the fact that Jason Hart, they're in third aboard the number 67. That damage to the right front, obviously he's not as quick as he could be, lacking downforce and a lot of drag on that right front, but they're having a good run, and I'll tell you what, there you go again. Somebody's sticking a nose in, and you would think that maybe people would have learned a little bit better by now. That is a low percentage move, and yet it gets tried one more time, and this time by the number 4 of Girassi. No way.
And yeah, that probably took a driver of Jason's experience to see it coming and make sure the two both came out on the other side. Enzo, really fast driver from Montpellier, France. Plenty of experience. He's driven in Super Trofeo at Europe, finished 6th in the championship last year, dual program here and in Europe this year once again. No one doubts his speed, but yeah, that was optimistic.
Well, and you have to pay attention to history, and we don't have to go way back. We only have to go back about 5 minutes to see the penalties that were handed down for like moves. Now, obviously, Anthony can't see those because he's in the race car, but or Enzo can't see him, I should say. But at the same point in time, it's one of those things where your team really needs to be on the radio with you as well before race control gets on the radio with you.
Right. Well, able to continue on, so they both get out on the other side. That's the good news, and the race continues here as we get in towards the tail end of this pit window. Just waiting on a couple of drivers to make that first stop, and unsurprisingly, you're seeing the Pro-Am lineups that have their more experienced driver in the car running pretty deep into this opening stint. And I think we'll see them on pit lane here before too much longer. The top 3, I believe, top 5 it looks like, still owing pit stops, although 4th and 5th have just peeled off.
Think about the change of pressure and how it moves between driver and team and team. At the beginning of this race, the pressure was on Danny Vermael from Wayne Taylor Racing aboard that #1 Lamborghini, fighting in the championship just 2 points back. Get through turn 1 cleanly. He did his job in qualifying, qualified it on the pole, got through turn 1 cleanly, and then sailed out to a comfortable lead. He had to feel good bringing it in, but now the championship rests squarely on the shoulders of Hampus Eriksson. He's taken over the #1, and I would expect to see that car move to the front, but right now is maybe one of the most treacherous times, Ryan, because you've got cars cycling in and out of the pits. Some drivers about to go in, others coming out. They're cold like you are, and it's going to take several laps for everybody to get comfortable again. And I say championship on his shoulders. Certainly we still have 3 races to go from here, but right now this duo of Eriksson and Vermael doing everything that they should do to win a championship. And I'll tell you what I saw right there, Ryan, tells me that Hampus Eriksson has a good head on his shoulders. He peeked to the inside of the 66 and thought about it and held back. You could see that he was thinking, can I do this here? And yet he held up, stayed off of it, and did not try to make that move. Good heady drive by Hampus Eriksson.
Yeah, you can tell he's thinking big picture in this situation. Of course, the brother of Indy 500 winner Marcus Eriksson, so this has been a really good venue for the Eriksson family over the years, and I would say Marcus too has a reputation of being someone who doesn't put his nose in where it's not needed. Really smart driver, and that served him well in the 500-mile races he's run here at the Speedway, and it looks like younger brother's got a little bit of that in his arsenal as well.
Brian Till, Ryan Marine with you from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is round 9 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Series Championship. 3 races to go after today's. 1 more here, and then 2 in Misano, including the World Finals there. And that will be a great experience for a lot of these drivers. Many of them have experienced the World Finals before, but for others, Ryan, it'll be a first-time trip overseas, and the atmosphere at the World Finals for Lamborghini Super Trofeo, pretty magical deal. So to have the opportunity to get to go would be really, really special for a lot of these drivers. We were talking about Trent Hinman and Jackson Lee. They continue to shine and draw the attention of supporters. They may even have an opportunity to go as well.
It is a special event, that World Final, and I'll touch on that more in just a second. I do want to quickly cover off the fact that this car does have a penalty coming, and that is for the contact that we saw. Gerasi, and at the time it was Jason Hart. Conrad Geis is now in that car, and it wasn't much contact, but you pointed it out, Brian, that race control has been sending a message across the board in the IMSA paddock that they really do not want to have overly aggressive driving, arguably dangerous driving. And while, yeah, both cars came out on the other side, they did not look kindly on that move from Enzo.
Yeah, and you kind of felt like they weren't going to. He's not happy. You just saw him inside the car, throw his hands up in the air and go, what did I do? And maybe when he goes back and watches the film, he'll understand a little bit better. Maybe he won't, right? But it's one of those deals where it's been clearly laid out, and that's the problem. It has been clearly laid out, so you know you have to listen to what you're being told, and what we're seeing is race control is sticking to the orders that they put forward. And here's another problem. Incident involving cars 4 and 44 on lap 2 is under review. Oh, well, that's the incident that they penalized. So no, that's a different incident. So
I think so.
Yeah, so there's another potential penalty coming to the 4 if it doesn't go their way as they're reviewing that incident from lap number 2.
That's interesting. So the 44, we saw Wyatt Foster, didn't we, have to come in with the puncture And so evidently there was some contact earlier in the race that led to that. And that, again, has been really costly for the 44. They got back out for a little bit, but now are shown stopped on the pit lane, so not really able to recover, unfortunately. And yeah, this day could go from bad to worse for the 4 crew. Quickly, though, back to your point about the World Final, I was able to cover it on a couple of occasions as a print journalist. So first time was in Imola, second time was at Vallelunga, and Lamborghini does nothing in half measures. It is a fantastic event, really, really special, and to get the best of the best, the Super Trofeo drivers from all around the world, first of all, finishing off their own continental championships there, wherever the host event is held, and then you throw everybody together and go for the world final crown, and that's really special and something that the drivers that win take a lot of pride in, knowing that they're best of the best in this equipment all across the globe.
Well, in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, details are important, so is typing. And what I mean by that is the message now across the bottom of the timing and scoring screen, car 14, not car 4, with a penalty for incident responsibility with the 44. It'll be a 10-second post-race penalty for that incident on lap 2. So the 4 team can take a sigh of relief since they saw their number up there twice. It was the 14 involved, not the 4.
And so that's now Andy Lee. Slade Stewart had been driving. This is that pink car right there, center of the shot, that owes that stop and has some damage to it, as you can see on the right front. So the good news, I suppose, in a manner of speaking, is they're down in 7th in class as it stands. The only car behind them is out of the race, so it's not likely to cost them any positions. We think this is a look at the contact that drew the ire of the stewards, and again, it's not a whole lot, but everybody's under the microscope at the moment here in this paddock.
Yeah, that one's interesting, and obviously it stands up the nose on the 14. I'm not sure if that was the incident or if it was on lap 2, but obviously there was contact. It was right there. The way I read it the first time, it was for incident responsibility in turn 2 at the beginning, but we'll have to see. Car 25, a penalty for a short pit stop time, so that will move them back, and that's the thing. In the pit stop, if you're less than a second off your time, it's a multiplier. If you're more than that, it can be a drive-through penalty. So, but anyway you look at it, it moves you back in the order. As I was saying a moment ago, somewhat jokingly, about the typo on the screen, details are important. And if you wonder how they do these pit stops so closely, there is a timer that runs on the dash, and they know how long it takes to get from the box to the pit out and how long it took them to get to the box, and they just follow that light. If you go a little too slowly, well, then you're slow and your pit stop takes longer and you lose some time on the racetrack, so you want it to be as close as possible. But if you jump the gun a little bit and leave the box just a fraction of a second too soon, that fraction of a second can turn into multiple seconds if you get across the line too quickly at pit out.
And that penalty is potentially meaningful from a championship perspective.
Oh, yeah.
It goes to Andre Lagartixa, who's not really in the championship battle, but it would promote David Staub back to 2nd. So again, this is a day that is coming up David Staub here. He's got a chance to make real inroads in that AM-Class championship battle. The way things run, that would promote him back up to 2nd as we watch the Pro-Am class leader here. Avon, Indiana native Jackson Lee in the number 69 machine for Wayne Taylor Racing, making his way around a track he would know quite well. First of all, having been here a lot over the course of his lifetime, but also a lot of laps here in the junior categories in the Road to Indy.
When you think about it too, he has the fastest lap in Pro-Am right now, does Jackson Lee, and I think it's one of those deals that look at the teams that are involved. Wayne Taylor Racing has a setup book, and at 1.9 we're running 5 or 6 cars out from underneath their tent there in the paddock, and these teams with multiple cars get a huge amount of data, and of course it's what you do with that data. But Wayne Taylor Racing, obviously across the board in any series they've ever been involved in, knows how to win races and championships, and right now Jackson Lee is a benefactor of that. He's got a great teammate, he's got a great team, they've got good information, they have given them a good race car, and when you hand a good race car driver a good race car, magic can happen. Right now for the 69 squad of Jackson Lee and Trent Hinman, that's definitely happening. And for Hampus Erickson, that same information and that same experience with a co-driver like Danny Vermael with the same result.
Right, yeah, 1-2 for the team right now, and actually they've got a really strong run going with the 4th place car overall, 3rd place in class with Gianno Torino. We were looking a moment ago at Matteo Cederman, who's leading in the AM class and having the day of his season, Brian. He was runner-up at race 2 at Laguna Seca, finished 3rd at Watkins Glen race 1, but has yet to win this year. 6th in points coming in. That would be a huge result for Matteo and TR3 Racing if he were able to hang on, and he's got a nice buffer back to the next car in that AM class.
Talk about hanging on. Tell you what, Conrad Geis is holding on in Pro-Am to a podium position right now. He's under a lot of pressure, but we know that 67 car was damaged. Now we have a slow car on track. We know it was damaged when Jason Hart had the contact at the start when Will Bamber couldn't get his Lamborghini up and going when the green flag was displayed. But tell you what, Jason Hart did a great job with it, and now Conrad doing a great job with it as well, holding on to that podium position. And that is huge because Trinka and Karlinskas are behind them right now on the racetrack. And even with the problems that the 67 has had, they could still leave here today. We've got a long way to go, over 10 minutes to go. They could still leave here today with the lead in Pro-Am.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah, there's a lot still in flux here with 10.5 minutes to go in this race. Off the screen a couple of laps ago, this was a battle in LB Cup. Chris Tasca, Steve Sorbero, and again, a little bit of bodywork flying off these race cars.
Yeah, Sorbero just got it wrong. He might have been paying attention to the rear of the car in front of him and not the brake markers beside him. He gets in there, perhaps got into the ABS, and a lot of times when you get into the anti-lock braking system, it is adjustable, and if he doesn't have it adjusted right or he gets too far into it, the car actually isn't going to slow down particularly well. And you're looking at the parts concession here for Lamborghini this weekend. That's not a bad deal in the parts truck. They're selling lots of front ends because you see both the 67 and Subaru with significant damage to the front end, and now the 94 around.
Yeah, that's, again, Sorbero with the spin there, so it's a little bit worse for him. Able to continue on, and look at that. Both of the cars in that shot a moment ago with mirror image front end damage, it would appear. This is Conrad Geis taking a look to the inside and maybe deciding discretion the better part of valor rather than trying to fight that. But he's coming under some pressure here from Andy Lee and the Flying Lizard team, but that's a car that has that penalty coming. Am I correct?
That's absolutely correct. So his team, they need to be talking to Conrad Geis, going, look, buddy, don't risk anything here with this pink car behind you, the unicorn. Let it go because we're not racing for position. Yes, they're in our class, but they have a penalty they're going to have to serve. Don't throw it away because you're in a fight with somebody who essentially is not there.
Right, yeah, it's going to be difficult for Andy to pull a big enough gap here with just 8.5 minutes to go. First of all, he's got to get by, but then has to pull a big enough gap to try and maintain that position come the end of the race. Andy's super quick, though, and he knows what the job ahead of him is. He knows he's got to pull that gap in order to make that position stick. So he'll be plenty motivated, no doubt about it.
But you look at the next 3 cars behind this duo, they are not in class. So Conrad Geis is sitting pretty. He can let Andy Lee go, not have to fight too hard. The idea that he's going to get more than a 10-second lead, it's just not going to happen. And he needs to know that the next 3 cars in the serial are not going to be any threat to him because they're not in his class.
Right.
There you go.
Really close between the two of them once again. There is another incident under review, and it involves the 67 car. My understanding is this was from lap 2, so from quite a while. And there was an incident, I guess, with car 8. So that's Gianno Torino now driving that car. I believe it was, well, I can't remember who started it. Oh, we'll get to that in a second. But that number 8 car, which runs 4th overall, 3rd in class, has a 10-second post-race penalty coming too.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Race control is going to look at everything, and they're going to kind of triage what they can do quickly but they're not going to let the other ones go because they didn't get to them right now. They're going to get to them. And once they get to them, if you ran afoul of what you were told in the driver's briefing, there's going to be a problem. And what I keep going back to this, Conrad Geist needs to understand Andy Lee is not a problem. Hopefully, the 67 team understands and saw that penalty come across the board.
Yeah, let's hope. Torino, by the way, shares that car with Nick Persing, who's been by himself most of the season, but brings in the defending Pro Class champion, Torino, as a teammate here for this weekend. But that car has that penalty coming. This was just a second ago. We got the tail end of it. The 65 goes for a spin. What a race. This has been wild.
Tell you, I think what happens on this racetrack a lot, it can be reasonably aggressive on the tires because of the way the surface on the super speedway portion of the track goes, and it's hot, and these Hancooks, the loads that you're under here are substantial. So now Andy Lee gets a run coming onto the front straightaway. He's in position. This should happen easily, and for Geis, he needs to just let it go. Looks at, oh! I tell you what, Ryan, I don't know what's going on because I can't listen to their radio, but I'm sitting here going, somebody should have been on the radio with that driver explaining what the situation is.
Yeah, to state the obvious, that is not what they needed. That's let Lee through, and he's now built a big lead. Plus, you got to wonder if that left side of this blue Lamborghini is damaged. Now, they had some out-of-class traffic that they were working through, and that was just another thing that Conrad had to try and deal with. But yeah, you got to believe there's probably some residual damage from such significant left-hand contact.
I would think so. In 5 minutes around this racetrack with damage like that could cost you. And we said, now a problem for the 77. That's Keon Tendon. He was running 6th, I believe, in the pro category, and has come to a halt. This should not bring out a full course caution, but we were saying that it would be difficult for Andy Lee to get a 10-second lead on Conrad Geis if he got by him. But if Geis damaged that Lamborghini in that incident in turn 1, the job for Andy Lee may not be difficult now.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, he definitely pulled a gap, no question, just immediately, and I'm curious what that looks like now. Waiting for Conrad to come across the line, and Lee's well on his way. Running out of time, but it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. So even if that car is wounded, Conrad needs to buckle down and try and find a little bit of pace here over the final couple of laps just to stay within that 10-second margin and then maybe hang on for that position. But actually, he's just dropped another spot to Karlinskis, so that could be out of the equation, and maybe it could be another podium for Lee and Stewart.
Well, and that's what I was getting ready to say, is that Lee got by him, and now Karlinskis has gotten by him, and now Camo is right there trying to get by him. And I don't know if it's all a result of what happened in turn 1, but as we saw it, as the cars were coming behind him, they didn't seem to be in the same class. So we'll have to wait and see. But and that's just how quickly things change in motorsports, right, Ryan? It's why we race to the checkered flag.
And huge in the point standings. Coming into the weekend, there was just 1 point between Karlinskis and Trinka and Geis and Hart. And that has totally flipped. It looked like it was going to flip around, and now it's swung back the way of Karlinskis, who was slow on the track just a few laps ago. So this race has packed a whole lot into just 50 minutes, less than 50 minutes of racing. And there's so many, I think, we're going to wonder, what if we had just had a clean day here today?
Erickson leading in pro, Jackson Lee in Pro-Am. We were talking about that excitement just a moment ago and how quickly things can change in the championship when we saw the problem for Conrad Geis in turn 1. Take a look at the cars behind him, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't see any yellow triangles in those windows.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, that would indicate that they would be in the same class. And so, again, consequently, especially knowing that pink car that had just made the pass has a penalty coming, yeah, these are cars that are irrelevant if they get by you. But you remember, Conrad has a left front puncture. I mean, that's almost certainly due to that wall contact. He is still super new to this. Last year was his first year in racing. Comes from a racing family, but hadn't done any himself. And so this is part of that learning curve, knowing the situation, knowing what risks are worth taking and what risks you might want to pass over next time.
Yeah, he just pulled off the racetrack, and it looked like he was looking for a cut to pull into. So looks like day done for the 67 after dodging all the balls that were thrown at him early on.
Right.
They got hit late in the game, but for the number one of Wayne Taylor Racing, one more time around this racetrack, and they'll look down the front straightaway, and for Hampus Eriksson, he should see the white flag this time by.
What a drive. I mean, it all got started with Danny Formal, who, as it's been told to me, I think has a chance to become the winningest driver in Super Trofeo North America history if this weekend goes according to plan. Got this race off to a picture-perfect start. I was a little surprised they did the early pit stop because you risk the safety car coming out in the middle of the window, but it didn't, and they were able to get Hampus Eriksson out with some clean track. He put his head down and has built that gap even bigger. Just a fantastic effort, and looking for their third win on the bounce, Brian, that gets them right back in the championship position that they felt like they were going to be in all season with the way that Sebring went at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, we said this early about both the number one, the 69, really all the Wayne Taylor Racing cars. If you look at Hampus Eriksson behind the wheel right now, watch his hand up on the wheel, the car's magic right now. It is an exceptional race car. Obviously, he's a very quick race car driver, but when you pair the two together, look at his hands on the wheel. There's no fight going on there. He moves his hands, the car moves in response. That's what you want, and what he wants is the 5th win on the season for he and Danny Formal.
Just a few quarters away. Yeah, they're in prime position, Brian.
And winning a race is always special, Ryan, always. But to win a race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it doesn't matter which way you're going down this racetrack, it is special. The Yard of Bricks, you'll get to kiss them. Yes, you will, Hampus Eriksson and Danny Formal. 5th win of the season for Wayne Taylor Racing in the Pro category.
And their teammates in Pro-Am. How about Trent Hidman and native Hoosier Jackson Lee across the Yard of Bricks? He wins at his home track, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2nd win of the season.
Rest of the cars coming through and looking for the checkered flag on timing and scoring. The first AM should indeed be the number 63 of Cederman. Looking for that, Nick Grote with a victory as well.
Yeah, Grote, we didn't talk about it much, but this is a fantastic season for Nick here that he's putting together. He's got a chance to clinch the championship this weekend if he can put together a couple of wins and a few other things fall his way. So check the first box and got the win here, and now Cederman coming home looking for his first victory of the campaign.
And like I was saying, with the overall winners, it's always special to win a race, but you look at hand out the window, he is going crazy. His first win in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, and it comes at the Brickyard. He did have 2 podium finishes earlier in the year, one at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca and another at Watkins Glen, but his first win comes right here at Indy.
Amazing. What a venue to get it done. Been on the podium a couple of times, coached by JCD, John Cabestro Dubets, who's fired up for his student behind the wheel, Matteo Cederman. Great job, not just with the win, but 8th overall, too. That's a really strong performance, and one of just a couple of cars in the AM class that finished on the same overall lap as your overall winners, Eriksson and Formal.
So let's talk race winners for a second. We were talking about Wayne Taylor Racing and what a great job they've done throughout the 4 different classes. Whenever they enter a car, you know they're going to be contenders. But talk about championships too. I mean, it's one of those things you look back, whatever the problem was for the 29 for Will Bamber at the start, it was long going, right? I mean, not the problem, but the effect of the problem. Once that was lost, even with a full course caution, you could get a little closer, but on the restart, so many cars between yourself and the leaders, and you watch that championship lead change. I'm not a mathematician, but Vermael and Ericsson were down 2 points after qualifying. They win the race, and for Bamber and De La Torre, they come home in the 4th position. Things are going to switch.
All things considered, though, I mean, they were at the very back of the pack and had to drive through some chaos in the early stages. It's not a bad fight back, but how frustrating it must be. Seemingly some kind of a technical issue. That car just didn't get going at the start of the race, put them on the back foot. For them to come through the chaos in a race, though, where so many others tripped up, to get back to 4th, that's not the end of the world, and maybe it at least salvages something to keep them in the hunt now with 3 races to go.
And there's a look, unofficial results. Everybody's got to pass tech, obviously. We were talking about Matteo Cederman with that victory in the AM category. Good stuff. And you bring up a really valid point about De La Torre and Bamber. When you look at the championship fight in the pro category right now, Ryan, both Danny Vermael and Hampus Ericsson and Elias De La Torre and Will Bamber, both of those teams have had problems this year. It's how you get back up. And for Jackson Lee and Trent Hinman, they're just going, hey, let the train keep going. We're having fun.
Yeah, don't want to stop anytime soon, do they? What a pairing they've turned into. Another bounce-back effort. Let's give a shout to Paul Nimshoff and Mark Miller. They had a disastrous Road America.
Man.
Failed to finish both of those races, but to come back in a big way, finishing on the podium for the 3rd time this season, that's a really good day for them.
And in spite of problems for Andy Lee and Slade Stewart, even with that post-race time penalty, I believe they're going to hold on to the final podium position in their category. So good news for them. Let's go to the second sheet. Championship leaders, Karlinskas and Trinka, I think they dodged one today because it looked like that championship could change a little bit, but kind of the same thing with Bamber and De La Torre. It what seemed to be bad at first ended up not so bad.
Yeah, it turned out that it came back their way. They had some kind of an issue late in the race, too, where they were off the pace, but their championship rivals fell by the wayside. You see them all the way down there, 25th overall, and that opened the door then for Trinka and company to kind of surprisingly actually open up that advantage once again, despite a difficult day.
See Chris Tosca there in 21st. He got beat up on in the ladder going by Sabaro there right behind him, and then what a heartbreaking day for Jason Hart and Conrad Geis. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's a special place, Ryan. I know it's special for you too, and Lamborghini's here. Some pretty cool racing going on. What do you think about the race, not only today, but what are we looking forward to tomorrow?
Well, I think we're going to see a little bit more chaos tomorrow. Everyone's looking at those championships, and they know time's starting to run out here late in the season. And we saw a few haymakers get thrown. A few of them landed, a few of them didn't. We'll see what tomorrow looks like.
Absolutely, we'll do it all again. We'll see who listened to the principal when they all got together for the meeting in the auditorium. We'll see if anybody learned from today. A little pushing, a little shoving, some penalties handed out, but some great racing. It's what you expect from Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, and we've got one more race on North American soil, and it's from right here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway tomorrow. I'm Brian Till, along with Ryan Marine. We've enjoyed today, and we are going to be back tomorrow. Make sure you are as well.